Hello, once again, I'm Kevin Turner from Real Estate Talk, and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm going to be talking now to Michael Beresford, who's a senior investment consultant and executive director at Open Wealth Creation, a part of Open Corporation. And by way of introduction, Open Corporation have been helping people build property portfolios for decades, more than $4 billion worth, in fact, and about 7,000 homes into their portfolios. Michael himself has guided his clients into acquiring over $100 million worth of investments. He teaches his clients the same strategy that he continues to use himself as he goes about building his own investment portfolio. Michael, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. Good to be here.
Yeah, good. I just wanted to know from you, first off, what do you see as the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to property finance?
Yeah, look, finance is critical to helping people be able to build an investment portfolio. It's pretty easy to get one house, but be able to build a portfolio is a bit more challenging. The most common mistake I see is that people put their own home at risk when doing that. It's called cross-collateralization, and it's basically comes down to going back to the bank that you have your mortgage with to be able to get finance for that first investment property. That would be by far the biggest mistake because it just gives the bank all of the control and puts you at a greater risk if anything were to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course, that's what the banks want, isn't it?
They love it. They just bundle it all together and then they're calling the shots. That's right.
Yeah. Well, why is it important, do you think, to ensure that the finance structure is set up correctly?
Not only from a protection and security perspective, with respect to avoiding cross-collateralization. But the second one is really where the power lies in the right structure, and it's about the flexibility. So if you have different properties financed with different banks, then you're just calling the shots and you're in control with when you want to and when you're able to pull the equity out of a particular property to help you cover the deposit and costs for the next one. You haven't got two with the same bank where they're basically playing you off against each other and saying that you don't have enough to move forward without you leaving you very much room to move.
I said in the introduction, Michael, that you've gone about building your own portfolio. Can you give me an example of how that may have affected you in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. So cross-collateralization was actually everything I've just said is based on my personal experience. I vividly remember the conversation I had with a good mate of mine who just started working at one of the big four banks. And he said, go and see my guy there. He'll get you a discount on the rate. And he did get me a discount on the rate, but he refinanced the first property, gave me the loan for the second property. One was in Perth, one was in Brisbane. They were cross-tied. The Brisbane market moved, the Perth market didn't, and I basically wasn't able to access the equity from the growth I'd seen in those properties because they split the difference and that wasn't enough for me to move forward. So yeah, from very early days with my portfolio, of being an advocate of being in control and avoiding cross-collateralization for sure.
That example you gave us there, Michael, is probably classic of why you shouldn't cross-collateralise it, especially when the market moves so dramatically in different areas. You look at the Sydney market now, and say if you had something in Sydney and something in Perth, that's a classic example. How important do you think it is that people monitor interest rates?
Look, definitely important to monitor them and so that you understand what your cash flow increase or decrease might be across the portfolio, and more important, the more properties you have. But again, when it comes to finance structure specifically, just because people cross-collateralize because it's easy. They can't necessarily be bothered. The bank knows me, they know my stuff, and that's what the banks play on. Very similar with interest rates. Australians love to get the low interest rate, and when it comes to building a portfolio, while interest rate is important, it's definitely that structural separation that is far more important and powerful to build a portfolio. So I'm not saying you pay massively over the odds. If it's the difference between, a 0.1, 0.2 or 0.3%, it's probably, on a $400,000 loan going to cost you about $1,000 a year. Getting that extra property 12 months soon is going to more than pay for that and offset it. So don't overpay on interest rate, but just keep it in perspective in terms of what's really important from a structural point of view when it comes to investment finance.
Your experience now in dealing with so many investors, one of the things that they always tell me is that finance is so daunting. Have you found that as well?
Oh, very, very common message, yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us then, how do we go about starting? What do we do?
Well, I think that the most important thing is just understand what your capacity is. I see a lot of people say that they might be looking to buy their own home for 600,000, but they've only got capacity for 450. You can't really put a square peg in a round hole. So it's a very easy exercise. A broker or a bank should be able to give you an idea of your borrowing capacity in about 5 minutes. Make sure you tell them the truth with respect to your situation, so you know exactly what you can do. And even better if you can get a pre-approval in place prior, just so you have that certainty and you know that the property that you're actually looking at is well within your means.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. If you want to get a bit more information about what Michael has been talking to me about, you can do that by contacting he and his team at Open Wealth Creation. Michael, thanks again for your time.
Good on you, Kevin. Good to talk to you.